Hi, I'm Fran with Stampendous, and I want to show you how to make the most out of your clear stamp and cutting die set. This one is the flowers with the beautiful jar for your bouquet. And in addition to the clear stamps and the messages, you also have wafer cutting dies. And on the back of the package, you'll see some beautiful examples that you can make. And I'll show you how to get started. Your clear stamps will just come off of the carrier, and you can then position it on a clear block and press it down. And then I've got some black ink, so you can see that you're getting black ink all the way across the stamp. And we'll move this out of the way, and here's some white paper, and I'll add my jar right there. And if there's a bit of ink left on the stamp, you can take a wet wipe and simply clean it off that easily. So once you have your images stamped, then you can color with whatever's your favorite method, whether it's color pencils, watercolor, markers, you name it. And I love color pencils. I think they are so easy to work with, and I can very quickly do some shading of color here and there, and just sometimes very soft color is all you need, and you can begin to see how this will begin to take on a rounded look of a jar simply by the way you do some shadowing. So here you can see that you can take it in whatever color scheme you want, from your black and white to full color. And if you notice, I colored over the lines, and I'm going to give you permission to do that, because as you see, next we're going to take this and cut out all of the separate pieces. So in your set you have a wafer die, and here's the cutting edge when I turn it over. And because it'll be more forgiving if you have a little bit of color around the edge, that's why we do it. So I'll show you how that works. I enjoy using the magnetic plate, and then whatever cutting system you have, you can then position your designs. And now with the wafer dies, you want to move them around until they're perfectly lined up and you're seeing an equal amount of black around the edges. So just keep moving it until it seems the most centered, and if you take the time to line it up, it will match perfectly. Put your clear plate on top. And there you have beautifully cut out shapes, quick as can be. Once you have your cutout shapes, you can use them in so many different ways to create a beautiful card. There's a couple of ones on the back of the packaging to give you some ideas. And with printed papers, it could be as simple as that to complete your card. And if you wanted, let's take a look at using several of the flowers together. And you can do an even fuller bouquet this way. And you can turn them a number of different directions and pop them up to create a beautiful three-dimensional card. But there's more. As you'll notice, on this one we did a pop-up card. So next I'm going to show you how, if you also purchase the set that's called Make It Pop, this is what allows you now to use with any of the other designs to create a three-dimensional pop-up card. So this set of cutting dies gives you this strange looking piece that is the structure of your pop-up. So determine what size card you want, and this is a half sheet, and I've scored and folded it in half. I call that the outer panel. The inner panel I like to create 1/4 of an inch smaller so that it's framed. And then I just need to find the middle point of this paper, whatever size it is. And that will be where, if I mark it or pinch it, I can then position this die right in the middle and run it through my cutting machine. Once this is centered and you have those score lines, I'll show you how you can turn it over, and now you need to train the folds. So I find it's the easiest to turn it around and find the small one at the bottom. Then I can find the middle folds and then push all the way up to this end, turn it over, and it has another score there. And then in addition, it has this tab. So push it all the way up, and then there's another little bend that brings it forward. Fold it closed. And now you can see that we've created one riser down here plus a tab that hangs forward of the base. So now put glue on the tabs, position the vase on there, and you can position with some glue just on that tab. You can turn the flowers any way you like to make a beautiful pop-up card. On this one, I positioned it a little bit to the right. You don't have to have it in the middle. And this is only one size that works really well, because over here you can see that I made this one 6 inches wide and this one slightly smaller. And by positioning it way to the left-hand side, I can now create a beautiful bouquet in the same way that has a whole different look. So we'll glue this piece to the base, and this on the overhang will now bob around and be very three-dimensional. So that's how you make it pop. In the Make It Pop set, you also have 3 border edgers. And this one is my favorite. It's a doily shape. If you run it through on an edge, you create a beautiful shape that sometimes I'll use down at the bottom to have an area to write my message, and sometimes I'll stamp off the edge and add a message and might put it out here on the outside of a pop-up card. But I discovered another very fun thing to do, and I'll show you the pieces here. So if you run it through one time to get this edge, it lines up to run it through a second time, curve to curve here, and now you have a beautiful doily shape. But there's more. Then I found out I wanted to make this doily sit underneath my little jar bouquet, and so I discovered that what I could do was take the same die again, line it up from the middle, run it through again, and that is now going to cut and score these edges so that all I have to do is cut away the center piece, fold it here, train those folds, and now look at this. I can now position it, and it's going to fit exactly around that pop-up. And when I put my vase on top, that gives me a beautiful base of this doily shape, just using the dies over and over. The Make It Pop set also has a series of concentric frames, ovals and rectangles. And by stamping your messages and die cutting the white out of the one size and a darker color with the largest one, you can frame a message and create a beautiful message very easily for your card. The tiniest shapes can also create some wonderful little tag pieces, and you can take a punch and add some little holes to add either ribbon or brads. And now this can be secured to the vase, and I can just tie it around. And there you have a beautiful pop-up with the flowers overhanging the vase, and it all pops.